And that is Luka Doncic of the 17 and 19 Mavs. They come in 12th in the West. They'll be battling the Hornets in Charlotte tonight. They come in 18 and 18. The Mavs just 2-8 in their last 10 games, so they are desperate for a victory. The Miami Heat are going to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers, and who's that guy?
Where's that masked man?
Dion Waiters is available to make his season debut tonight for the Miami Heat. He has been out an extended period of time with a foot injury, and Dwayne Wade is out tonight with an illness, so he'll be getting him up against his former team, the team that drafted him, the Cavaliers. And it'll be Hawks and Wizards from D.C. That's Bradley Beal. And you can expect big numbers from B. Beal with John Wall out. Good news, Otto Porter Jr. is back for the Wizards tonight. And we're going to go ahead and crank this thing up. It's called Game Time Live. Happy New Year, basketball fans, and welcome to Game Time Live. Rick Hamill with three-point pioneer Dennis 3D Scott and NBA insider Sekou Smith here on a 9-game Wednesday. And it is great to be out here hanging out with two of my favorite dudes.
Man,
What's going on?
We haven't seen Ricky Pipes in a
been a
while.
minute.
Yeah.
You guys been good?
Man, it's been great. It's good to see you.
Been acting up on Wednesday nights. Where you been is the question.
I've been watching TV and enjoying the heck out of it, man. I've been enjoying it. So one of the marquee games here tonight tips off in moments from Charlotte as it's the Mavericks and the Hornets. And based on the following statistics, it's advantage Hornets. Now, the Mavs are 15-3 at home, 2-16 on the road. So that's a plus 13 in terms of wins that they get when they are at home. The Hornets are right behind them. So the Hornets are very good at home, and they're not good on the road either. The Hornets are 14-7 in Charlotte, 4-11 on the road. So Dennis and Sekou, what are your theories to explain the Mavs' home dominance and road struggles?
Well, it's real simple when you have a young team. I'm talking about as far as Luka's being the face of the team. We know DeAndre and all those guys have been around for a while. So when you're at home, you play more confidence, you understand the building and your crowd gets behind you and so forth. Then you go on the road and teams have that tape on you and now they're taking you out of your comfort zone. So that's what Luka, and that's why I think Darryl Armstrong talked to him the other day, is trying to teach the young guys that when you go on the road, you got to dig a little deeper and play more together.
Yeah, and I think when you put the ball in Luka Doncic's hands the way the Mavs have, you're largely going to ride the wave of momentum he brings. And at home, in that comfort zone, as you mentioned, 3D, he's great. On the road sometimes, still competitive, but not quite as comfortable. And that maybe affects the rest of that group in some fashion. Not to mention that Dennis Smith Jr., this is just his second year. I know he's a guy who's really shown himself, but he's been banged up. And then he's still adjusting to life on the road in this league. He's only been around one time. So those sorts of adjustments, Rick, are the ones you have to make at this stage of those guys' young careers.
And Dennis Smith Jr., it's interesting. His points per game and his shots per game have dropped each month this season. In October, 15.6 points per game on 14.6 shots. In December, down to 10.6 points on just 7.8 shots. Is that about sort of the mantle passing to Luka Doncic, or is there something else going on there?
No, I think Sekou hit it earlier. When he missed those, I think it was like 10 or 15 games, the injury, Luka kind of just exploded and really started taking his game to the next level. Now he's just starting to get his legs back. So now when you have both guys being explosive, playing off one another, I think it's going to be great. So I'm not worried about the numbers much, Rick. I'm just worried about, watch this play right here. Watch how the legs are alive. Watch how he's getting to where he wants to get to on the floor. You see OKC's trying to figure out, is he going to make the right decision? Because that's one of the things you question Dennis Smith. Under control, get all the way to the rim, finish the basketball. So now, as you're in transition, you say, wait a minute, Sekou, the reason he went so high in the draft is because of athletic ability. This is patience right here. Last year, he might have shot that three. You keep the dribble alive, you get all the way to the basket. So it lets me know that when he was hurt, he was paying attention to what he needed to do. Now, talk about legs, Sekou. We know Paul George is off to a great start. Look how he's moving his feet. Look how he can test without fouling. 2 hands up, hands down. Obviously, Paul George is having a great year, but good, consistent defense. I like what I see, Sekou. The question is, Rick and Sekou, when both of those guys figure out they can do well together. And I don't think there's an ego right now. No. I think both guys understand they're both quality players and they're both good and young. The question is, how long does it take for Rick Carlisle to put them on the same page?
Well, I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact is when can you figure out how efficient you can be without the ball in your hands? We're talking about guys who look at their careers. You know, Luka Doncic obviously overseas, but Dennis Smith Jr. always had the ball in his hands.
Yep.
So now you're playing with another guy who's of equal or better talent than you. For both these guys, you have to figure out ways to be your effective best with somebody else in a ball handling role that's just as good as you are, that can create like you can, that can finish and has exceptional ability. So to me, this is really a good learning lesson for both these young guys to figure out how do we complement each other and become one of those better backcourts in the league.
It's interesting because when the Mavericks drafted Dennis Smith Jr., Mark Cuban came out famously and said, the Dennis Smith era has begun in Dallas, and now they have Luka Doncic, who's the face of the franchise. So kind of weird how that's worked out. Let's switch gears and talk about Kemba Walker and the Hornets. Kemba has 2 of the 4 highest scoring games in losses this season, put up a 60, also put up a 47. Kemba is averaging 25.8 PPG, 11th in the league. Sekou, why are the Hornets winning more? Why aren't they winning more with their best player having his best season to date?
Well, because we have to come back to earth in this league and understand that even when you have one singular talent and a guy who's playing as good a basketball as he's played in his career, you can't do it alone in this league. You got to have some supporting cast that's playing at a high enough level to boost what you do. And Kemba has been balling. I mean, there was a stretch earlier in the year, I think he scored 103 points in a couple games, and it really lit it on fire, let everybody know he was coming out to establish himself as an all-star again in this league. And then he, the bumps, the bruises. Who's there to support you? Are you getting the best of Nick Batum, Marvin Williams, some of these other guys, Malik Monk? Are these guys playing and raising their game to a level that complements yours? Right now, they haven't been consistent enough for the Hornets to take that next step. But nobody can talk about Kemba's effort and his production. He's been fantastic.
Kemba's done everything on and off the floor since he stepped foot in Charlotte. So it's unfortunate for him he doesn't have enough help. Talk about Nick Batum, got the big contract a few years ago. He hadn't really lived up to his contract, so let's just call it what it is. So Kemba each night is set the tone, is leading by example, just trying to figure out, to Sekou's point, who else is willing to step up. Malik Monk might play good for a couple games, and he'll prove he's still young. Marvin Williams, a veteran, he is what he is now. Zeller just got hurt the other night in the hand, so it's not finding that consistent second guy to complement Kemba.
Well, a lot of times this year, that second guy has been Jeremy Lamb. Jeremy Lamb has been one of the most improved players this year. He is out tonight with a hamstring injury. Kansas rookie Devontae Graham is going to make his first start. So, Sekou, how does that change things, and how much more pressure is on Kemba now that Jeremy Lamb is out?
Well, hopefully with Devontae Graham being the kind of ball handler and facilitator he is, it takes some of the pressure off Kemba. That to me, that's been the big issue for Charlotte, and this goes back to before the season, before James Borrego came in there. They've always been trying to figure out how can we keep Kemba as our catalyst and our scorer, as well as the point guard and the guy who facilitates for everybody else, and balance it in a way that allows Kemba to be at his physical best deep into some of these games you have. Let's be honest, he's not a big guy. So that means he's going to get knocked around physically on a nightly basis, slicing into the lane, going in there and finishing at the rim the way he likes to. Somebody else has got to be able to take that load off of him. Maybe Devontae Graham is the kind of guy who can do some of that.
Quite a defensive challenge for Dennis Smith Jr. and the Mavericks tonight to contend with Kemba Walker. The Pelicans are in Brooklyn tonight, and Anthony Davis is back. He missed Monday's game with an illness. AD will rock and roll.
Hey, better place to do it in Brooklyn.
Bright lights,
yes, sir.
Big stage, and we're just getting started on Game Time Live. Coming up, we'll give you the latest on Kyrie Irving. Got poked in the eye on Monday. Celtics radio announcer Sean Grande will give us the latest on Kyrie Irving and if he's in or out tonight.
The official card of the NBA.
Welcome back to Players Only. How about Jaylen Brown? He averaged 14.5 last year, only about 11.5 this year, but his 18 points in the first half, his highest scoring first half of the season. 6 for 8 from the field, 4 for 4 from the line. And K-Mac, when you look at this Boston Celtics team, you were impressed by the aggressiveness and by guys taking on defense, whether it was individually or whether it was in a team concept.
Yeah, Brown had 18 points. He probably got 6 or 8 of those off of good defensive stops, runouts, getting in transition. That's what those guys have got to score. When the game gets slowed down, Kyrie Irving's going to have the ball in his hand. He's their best ball handler. Those guys got to score in different ways. And you're going to see, it's a defensive game tonight. You're going to see Aldridge. Aldridge comes in, comes all the way off the far side corner to get a nice block on Morris. and just being active. Here again, he's just going to end up being active. You know, he gets down, collapses the paint, forces him off the line, gets him in there, and then, you know, blocks a shot. Just nice activity by Aldridge. If you want to know why San Antonio is shooting 33%, ugh. Let's see. Get it again. Ugh. And one more ugh. And so, you know, they're all around. And good, solid defense by the Celtics getting back in there. But, you know, the Spurs are all around the basket not making it. But I'm impressed with the Spurs defense. They're getting out. I've always thought that the Celtics defense was really good and solid because they switch so much stuff. And they have so many long 6'7", 6'8" guys that can just defend and switch. So I like watching San Antonio right now. Their defense is solid, and they're staying in the game on their defense.
Yeah, you mentioned it. You look at the Spurs, only 8 for 26 inside the paint. That's tough to win a game if you're going to be like that. And Zeke, you're one of the few guards that gave this league 20 and 10. You were criticized for it because it was before the transformation of the game moving up and down. But you were an aggressive leader. Do you think that Kyrie is going to have to maybe go through some criticism, or he's going to have to take more on his shoulders as far as maybe just being aggressive? The reason why I ask you that is he only has 5 shots tonight, 2 for 5. We saw him get a 40-point game on Christmas. We've seen his leadership, but it seems like they need someone to step off offensively. Is that what you want to see from him, or is it a lot more involved?
It's about picking your spots, knowing when and where and how.
Okay.
And I thought what he did tonight at the start of the game, he picked his spots, right? So you're out on the road and you want to get off to a good start. So everyone's looking for you to come out as the leader of the team to be aggressive. He scores 2 points here, plays good defense. Now he gets into transition. Not only when he gets into transition, he's like, we out on the road, I'm pulling up, I'm taking a 3. Now I've set the tempo, I've set the tone. I've let everybody know on my team that, hey, we here to win tonight, we're here to play tonight. And I don't have to do anymore. Now I can let others step up and do what they need to do. So I thought he did a good job of coming out and establishing tempo and letting his teammates know that, hey, we're coming to win this game, play one.
It's interesting what you said. It's not about how aggressive, but when you're aggressive, and setting the tone is just as getting 10 assists that night, because other players see, even if you're not passing the ball to me, I need to be aggressive. Let's get this win and go celebrate the new year.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel you. I feel you. That's how you learn from one of the greats to ever do it. Way to break it down, Zeke. And in the face. That's right. Turning from the top of the key, saying check up.
The Toronto Raptors are looking to improve upon their second-best start in franchise history. Second to last season when that guy wasn't even there. And now he is. It's halftime between the Raptors and the Utah Jazz. Welcome back into our NBA TV studios. This is the American Express Halftime Report. As promised, alongside the Hall of Famers, Isaiah Thomas, Coach Kevin McHale. Now, we've seen 2 quarters from these 2 teams. And we know, Coach, that the Raptors' offense has been potent this season, but what, if anything, are the Jazz doing to slow them down?
Jazz are a good, solid defensive team. I wanted to see if Rudy Gobert could still control the paint by chasing Ibaka from the perimeter. But they're switching a lot of things. And they got some versatile defenders. They're getting up. They're not giving Toronto a lot of room to operate. They're pushing up into their body a little bit. So I like Utah's defense. It's very aggressive. They're getting up into them. And so the way you beat that is that you got to beat clean beat. I mean, you know, Van Vliet has got to get to the hole. Leonard's got to kind of quit dancing, put his head down and get to the hole. And anytime you put pressure on people, the pressure relief is attack and drive. So I expect Coach Nick Nurse to go in and tell Toronto, hey, Toronto, quit, east to west with the ball, north, south, north, south, north, south.
Only 5 free throw attempts for the Raptors, so they're cleanly getting to the basket. Nobody's reaching in. You can't do that these days. All right.
Hey, that's a foul. That's too hard. This is a softer, gentler NBA.
That's fair. How do you think you would have done? No, we're not going to get into that. That could go on a while. So instead, on the Raptors' defensive end of the floor, what stands out to you about their execution through these first 2 quarters?
I like the way they defend. And right now, they're holding Utah to 40% shooting from the field. And how are they doing that? Okay, you see they guard the basketball, and they switch, and they got shot blockers inside with Serge Ibaka. Here, most teams would switch this, but here they shoot the gap. Not only do they shoot the gap, when they shoot the gap, now we got 2 lane runners. The lane runners run wide. We got Siakam out in the open court dunking the basketball. They take advantage of the turnovers quickly. Again, they switch. Not only do they protect the rim, but then they get out in the open court. And when they get out in the open court, if they don't have anything, okay, they take their time, they get it to Leonard, and now we got an N1 situation. So when you're going in at halftime, you're saying, hey, look, we're holding Utah to 40% field goal shooting. Now, why are we down by 2? We're down by 2 because maybe we're a little bit too aggressive. We've sent Utah to the line 19 times. What we got to do right now is control our urgency in terms of reaching, fouling, like you just fouled me. Don't put them on the line. Continue challenge the shots, and we should be okay in this third quarter.
Kawhi Leonard, though, has 15 points in those first 2 quarters, including 6 of 10 from the field. He's missed both of the 3-point attempts that he's had, but what's working so well from the mid-range?
Well, yeah, he's a good mid-range player. He's not going to just keep extending himself out the 3-point line if he doesn't have to. He can make these mid-range shots. I mean, that's kind of where he's comfortable. He came in not as a great shooter in San Antonio. He improved and got to this. I still say, though, when I watch him, you can see him, he's effective. I like when he puts his head down and goes by people. He is so strong, and he's got that slow kind of walk at the end of his move, where he kind of that last long step and he slides through. He's tough to guard. So I don't mind. Like, everybody gets uptight, guys taking mid-range jump shots. I'm like, he's a good mid-range jump shooter. I like to see him put his head down, though, and get to the line a little bit more. And you talked about, another thing that the Raptors have to do is they got to keep Utah off the offensive glass. Utah's got 7 offensive rebounds, and so there's a lot of little things that are going in favor of Utah right now. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep this up. They've had a lot of road games that haven't been particularly a great road team. So they've done okay, but this will be a good test for that team.
Well, after the break, we're going to take a look at the other matchups.